let's get into part 3, and I'm going to work through these next couple a little bit quicker than I did the first 2. Otherwise, we're going to be here all day. And I know you guys don't have that much time, so let's get this rocking and rolling. Yes, Notre Dame's pass run offense has to get better. There's things it has to get better. It sounded like it needs to continue evolving and thriving and not having sort of the up and down we saw so far, but it really needs to be excellent the rest of the way. And there's ways to get there. But it's going to be really hard, in my opinion, for Notre Dame to be the offense and the team they're capable of if you don't see continued growth from the pass game. Loved what I saw in certain areas against Purdue. And so when you talk about how the pass game can get rolling, a big part of that is going to be keep doing what you did on Saturday. And this includes some things that we saw with Steve Angeli schematically that I would like to see incorporated earlier in the game as well. But you saw things where Notre Dame was using formations and motions to get ISOs in certain situations to get some easy completions, 5, 6, 7 yards going. Great. We obviously saw some things that they were doing some motions and moving around, doing some post-snap switch type stuff, which created some mistakes from Purdue and turned some guys loose. Now you need to hit those guys. So schematically, I liked a lot of the things that we saw from Notre Dame in that game. And then we saw something in the second half that I'm kind of saying, like, that's something that they need to do more with the first team. And one of them was it was the first touchdown pass that Steve Angeli threw. That looked like an RPO throw to me. Now, you could argue that maybe that's a penalty if it's not out of doubt, if the game's not basically over. But one of the linemen was a little too far down the field, but Steve kind of rode that inside zone. They come down, tight end runs free. He pulls it, throws it, wide open touchdown. I'd like to see a little bit more of that type of stuff. I feel like it's been there at times. Not against Northern Illinois because they were doing a pretty good job of keeping that too high look. Against some of these teams are going to play cover 1. Some of these teams are going to play, cover 0, come down to the box. That's something you might be able to do. That's more of not just that play, but more of the downfield RPO game. I understand Notre Dame's hesitancy to call that stuff so far because Riley Leonard has not been comfortable going through his reads, and that's not the kind of throw you want to make a whole lot of if a guy's not comfortable with reads. But he's going to have to get better in that regard and more comfortable in that regard, and they're going to need to call some more of that stuff because we did see a couple RPO throws that were effective in the game. I think they had 2 RPO completions with Riley that went for 22 yards. It's a good step in the right direction, but they've got to continue to improve the RPO game. And I also would like to see more from the play action game. And play action isn't just, riding down and throwing downfield shots, but that's part of it. It's also about movement throws, getting some things where maybe you do some bootleg things and run some jet sweeps and bring Riley backside, or there's some different things that you can do that builds on it. You've got the jet sweep action now. You've got some things out of that. I would add some run game wrinkles out of that. And then off of that, you can kind of ride it. And then you've got some gimmicky type plays, which I think are needed to really get Riley going because they're easy reads. They're, okay, you're doing this to influence the defense. You've got one read. It's either here or here. And I would like to see some more of that stuff just to try to put defenses in binds, get creative with how you attack off of your run. And part of protecting a really good run game is having some potential big play options in your pass game out of the looks that are effective in your run game. And we haven't seen Notre Dame do a lot of that so far this season. And to me, that's the next step of evolution in the pass game that needs to be there. Some other benefits to running play action passes is a lot of times play action passes are going to have more simplified reads, especially if you max pro. I would strongly consider, now that Mitchell Evans is more active in the pass game, and we saw more out of Eli Raridan, as I would strongly encourage Notre Dame to consider, maybe some play action throws where the tight end stays in. And Riley has a little bit more simplified reads where it's this to this and being more effective that way. And it's not a front to left, right to left to right. It's a top down read. I'm throwing the post, I'm throwing the over. I'm throwing the over. The post is just a clear. I'm throwing the over. I'm taking the check down, whatever the case may be. Just some things that give him some easy downfield reads that hopefully can get him going. Because you can't do that all season. At some point in time, he's got to be able to drop back, read a defense, and throw the ball down the field. Certainly. But he's not comfortable with that right now, not like he was at Duke. And so you need to be able to find some opportunities to give him more simplified reads. So hopefully encourage him to step and let it go and stop aiming the ball down the field. That is something I'm working on way a ton this week in practice, is getting him to stay in the pocket and step into his throws and not short arm everything. Snap the ball off. He's slowing down his arm motion when he throws the ball deep. If anything, you need to snap that ball off more. And that's something that Gino Guidugli needs to identify and fix with Riley Leonard here moving forward. And if he does, I think his deep game is going to be a lot more effective. And when he really snaps that ball off and lets her rip. I mean, you go look at, like, for example, you go look at his throwing motion from the Manning Academy, right? The thing that he did this summer, we threw that real deep ball and he won the, air it out competition or whatever it is that he did. I forget what they call it, air it out championship or something like that. But when you watched him in that, I mean, he's snapping that ball off, he's stepping into it, he's using force in his arm and all those type of things. And I want to see him do that against more throwing the deep ball. And so that's something you've got to rep, and you've got to really convince him to be more effective about that. So, like, if you watch the mechanics of the deep balls he was throwing in that game, and you watch how he steps back and just really snaps the ball off vertically, and then you watch him throw the deep ball against Northern Illinois, it's a slower motion. It's a short-armed motion. He's not driving into the throw. And that's something that Riley needs to do a better job of. He has it in him. I've seen him make throws like that a lot of times at Duke and even in practices at Notre Dame. He's not throwing with a lot of confidence because he's not reading with a lot of confidence. And so going to more of a play-action game, going to more of some of the, hey, we get cover one, and you've got Bo on one side, or you've got KK Smith or Chris Mitchell on the other side, or Jaden Greathouse on the other side. We get a cover one. Don't be afraid to just check and throw a deep shot there, right? Just not a read. It's just, okay, which matchup do I like better? I'm going to take this route, and I would like to see them take a couple field shots on that as well. Angeli read that, and they threw, or not, I don't know if he read that, but they called that, and he saw it, and he threw a field goal route to KK Smith. The problem was a really bad throw. He needs to lead him on that particular play because KK had the guy beat by a couple steps. He needs to see that, get it out over top, make that throw. I know Riley can make that throw, and I think Steve can make that throw as well. I just think he got in his head back shoulder, and so he's trying to throw a back shoulder. You can't throw a back shoulder when your receiver's a couple steps in front of that guy. And if you're going to do that, it needs to be right on him where he just goes up. You can't have him stop and do a back shoulder. Well, we're going to see what happened in the game. He's going to kind of get run through, and they're not going to call that flag because they're going to look at it as a really bad football. But throw that thing over top, not back shoulders, just throw it over top. I don't care if it's incomplete. Just get him into the thought process. Hey, it's okay to take that shot because you're going to start hitting those shots. And so that I think that's important too, because I think another key to this game for Notre Dame when you look at Miami is I would love to see this against them. And they've got decent corners, big tall kids that you can take some shots on, but you're really going to need to get Chris Mitchell and KK Smith and even Bo Collins. You're going to need that vertical game to get going a little bit, and especially with the two Z's, KK and Chris Mitchell. I'm saying, listen, if we get this safety over here, here's what you're doing, Riley. It's real simple. We get a one-on-one out there with our corner, or their corner against one of our, either Chris or KK. Here's what we're doing. We're going to call this. You're going to look that safety. You're going to stare right at Bo Collins. You're going to look him off for a good second and a half. As soon as he freezes on the hash or on you, you're turning and you're launching that sucker down the field to our receiver. It's not a back shoulder. You're launching it. You throw it up and over the top on the outside. Right. And so take those shots, because I think if you can hit a couple of those shots against Miami of Ohio, that's a good sign, because I talked about this yesterday. Their secondary players are a lot like what Notre Dame faced against Northern Illinois. Not elite athletes, but tall, long, good experience, guys that can, give you a look. And if you can hit those throws against them, that to me bodes well for your ability to continue to build on that. So I would take some of those shots. And again, it's an easy read for Riley Leonard. He doesn't have to think, am I throwing the post? Am I throwing the over? Am I throwing the smash? No, it's, dude, you're throwing to him. Look the safety off, throw to him, and that's it. And if he can hit a couple of those, then I think this will allow him to maybe he just needs a boost of confidence in his downfield throwing game. And that's really going to be the next step for me. So outside shots. One thing he's thrown pretty well so far this year is corner routes and deeper out cuts. He had a corner against Texas A&M, really good ball. He threw a really, and the slot fade to Jaden Greathouse was a great ball. I want to see him do that a little bit more. But he threw the deep out cut to Jaden Greathouse at the end of the first half. Really good ball, accurate ball. He's throwing that with a little bit more confidence than he is some of the other throws. And there's some things that you're going to see on film that I would like to see. Hey, look, you're doing a lot of the burst corner stuff. That's great. But maybe run some smash, because I think smash with Jaden Greathouse with your tight ends can be an effective concept against single high safety as well, especially if you're getting corners that kind of squat down. Because what you'll do against the danger of smash at times, if you're playing a team that's playing off man and you bend that corner route a little too much, or cover three, if the quarterback doesn't read it correctly, you can kind of throw it to the corner who's going to jump underneath the corner route, the cornerback underneath the corner route. If you're running its cover two, that's where a lot of people run it, but you've got to make sure that corner doesn't bait you and then jump underneath the corner route. I've loved kind of being able to throw smash against the cover one team as well, because the way it's a one-on-one route. I mean, you're throwing a corner route in that particular play, and you're occupying that cornerback with one of your receivers. If you're getting like a pure man, like a pure cover one, I like the pivot route with it, because the pivot route really forces that cornerback to drive on it and stay up more, which gives you more room over the top. But that's a route you're going to kind of take over the top a little bit. And if you're playing against a nickel or a safety that's come down. If you're playing against an off safety, let's say they're playing two-man, or some version of cover one, but he maybe is cheating over top of you, then you may bend it off a little bit. But this is a route that you get a shot to get a one-on-one to the slot, which I think is a route that would be great to Mitchell Evans or any of the other tight ends. And it would be a route that I'd love to see them give a chance for Jaden Greathouse to go play. And so those are different aspects of things that I'd like to see from this offense, to get Riley some easy reads, some shots down the field, and hopefully be able to build some success in the pass game. A couple other things is they've done some good stuff with the post-snap switch things this past week. I'd like to see a little bit more of that as well to kind of get them going. And then the final thing is they've got to do a better job in pass protection. Like Notre Dame's offensive line has been spotty in pass pro. And I don't want to say that that's the reason Riley Leonard is struggling. I don't. I think that's a cop-out. But I do often watch him, and you can see that he's not comfortable setting his feet. Normally, this is a big picture assessment. I don't know that it's specifically if it's necessarily the issue here, but in a lot of instances when a quarterback who has in the past been willing to set his feet is currently unwilling to set his feet, it's one of two things. And in Riley Leonard's case, I actually think it's both of these. One is he just doesn't have a lot of confidence in himself. And I think that's obviously an issue with Riley Leonard throwing the ball down the field. The second problem is he's not comfortable setting his feet in the pocket, because he's not comfortable that his offensive line, especially on the edge, is going to give him time to set his feet and throw. And we've seen that being an issue. And then, of course, it didn't help this weekend when he drops back to pass and he's got an open guy. It's going to be probably an easy touchdown, and the offensive lineman just jumps into his chest like that. That's not going to inspire confidence in the quarterback when you're not even getting hit by anyone and you jump into me. So that the pass pro is going to have to improve. As good as the line has been at run blocking at times, they have not been great in pass pro. At least they haven't been consistent in pass pro. And that's something that's going to have to get a lot better. They're going to, especially at tackle. Their tackles, I think, are giving up a lot of ground, and they're not doing it wide. They're kind of doing it into the quarterback. And so they're going to have to find some ways to maybe adjust that to try to force maybe a little bit of a wider rush or be more stout at that point in time to protect that. But then there's some other things you can do with moving your launch point that maybe makes them think twice about whether or not they want to come with those hard edge charges right into the quarterback. So certainly going to be aspects of the pass game that need to improve. The quarterback's got to get better. Certainly the receivers have to get better, and the pass pro has to get better. And if they can continue to evolve, what I love about the Purdue game is this: it's not so much the specific routes that were called, or they didn't throw enough down the field, or it's they were clearly trying to build the game plan around what Riley Leonard's comfortable with. And that's the way to go, as opposed to this is who we are and you've got to get better at it. It's got to be a little bit of both. And so this was a game that was needed for Riley to gain some confidence. He was not smiling against Northern Illinois. He was stressed against Northern Illinois. You watch him against Purdue and he was smiling again, right? Like, he's a fun-loving, goofy kid. Like, you need to have him comfortable early. And now it's about, okay, get him comfortable, but now push him a little bit. Riley, you got to hit a couple of these balls. So fine. Do some things early to get him some shots that he's comfortable with and get him rolling. Because I'll say this, I wholeheartedly believe that if Notre Dame plays on offense against Louisville, Georgia Tech, Florida State, USC, any team that's got any kind of pulse, if they play against those teams the way they did against Purdue, they don't lose another game in the regular season. I wholeheartedly believe that. And I don't care if they're throwing the ball down the field or not. You play the way you did on Saturday with the defense you have, you're not going to beat every team 66-7, but you're going to beat them. But here's the thing. Well, let me rephrase. You're going to beat every team you play until USC. I still think you beat USC. I need to see how good USC offense is. But here's the deal. I don't know and don't believe that it's good enough to then go and win a semifinal game against a Georgia, a Bama, a Texas, a team like that. I don't know that it's good enough to do that. I don't know that if your defense is not able to shut down Tennessee's offense, if it's good enough to outscore a Tennessee team that, yes, their offense is putting up a ton of points, but you watch that Tennessee team, that is an improved defense. There's no doubt that's an improved defense. And I think they got rid of some personalities that maybe make them more of a unit. And, of course, they have an elite edge rusher on that defense as well. So you're not going to be able to win the big ones, which I don't know if I don't know that Louisville is that. I don't believe Georgia Tech is that. I don't think Florida State is that. USC might be. Let's see them play more than 2 games. They might be. I said they're going to be improved. Let's see just how improved they are. This weekend is a step towards that. So we'll see how that goes. But I think you're going to win the rest, right? I do. I even think you beat USC running that way. I think you can win a first-round playoff game playing this way. I think you can win a quarterfinal game if you get a Big 12 or an ACC champ in this quarterfinals. I think you can win those games playing that way. Not going to beat them all 66-7, but you're going to win as long as your defense. Because again, when I say play like Saturday, it's defense as well. Defense was brilliant on Saturday. But once you get past the quarterfinals, assuming you don't get a Bama and Ohio State, a Georgia, Texas, a team like that in the second round, to really take that next step, you've got to be a more dangerous offense. And again, you don't have to throw for 350 yards a game, but you've got to be able to hit some of these shots. And it's like, there's this thought that it's got to be about, you got to hit bombs. And I mean, that's nice, hit some of those, but it's not about that. Sometimes it's like, hey, let's get the over stuff going. Let's get the crossers going. Let's get the over routes going. Let's run some levels concepts. Let's clear out the deep defense and bring a deep over route and get him going on that regard. Riley's hit those several times in the past. Those are deep shots as well. Those are big, well, I shouldn't say deep shots. Those are big play opportunities as well, because to me, the pass game getting going is not about the deep game has to improve. You need to have that, but a lot of it's about, no, you need to be a more dangerous passing offense. Sometimes that's going to be, you got to hit a shot outside. There's no doubt. You're not going to go the rest of the season not completing a single pass past 20 yards and win a national championship. It's not going to happen, right? But what you do have to do is when you get into this next look in this next slate of games, is you have to be able to say, listen, we've got to be able to create more big plays in the pass game, right? That's the key. And big plays aren't always deep shots. Big plays are also getting guys in space. It's about the quarterback reading the ball, reading the defense quickly, decisively, being accurate with the ball, and making sure you're getting the right personnel in those situations. And that's the big thing, is they have to be more dangerous in the pass game. That's the reality of it. And if you run like you did, look, you can run on just about anybody if you get that way, right? And for the Louisville fan in the chat that doesn't understand what I'm talking about, it isn't saying they're going to beat Louisville 66-7. Nobody, I literally said that. Okay, so pay attention, right? But what it is you are still going to be able to win that game, not because of, oh, you're going to score 66 points, but you're going to be able to score enough points with the way your defense played to beat Louisville, to beat USC, to beat Florida State, if you can repeat that performance. That's the key. But that's not going to be good enough, in my opinion, to make the deep run that this team we all felt about coming into the season. So that's really what you kind of get down to. And that's really what it boils down to, is if you want to take that next step, you're going to have to evolve this part of your game. And if they can do that, then I think the offense will really take off. And now you become an even more dangerous team. And now you don't have to have your defense win you a bunch of football games. That's going to be the key. Because if you play offensively against Purdue, you're going to be able to control the clock. You're going to be able to move the ball enough. You're going to get the points you need to get to score. So, okay, you don't score 66 against Louisville, but you score 27. You score 30. You score 31 if you can play defense the way that they had. And that's going to be the key. That's going to be the key for this team moving forward. So, and some of the Louisville fans in the chat may not like that. I don't care. That's the way I see it, and that's what I think this team can do. But the goal for Notre Dame isn't to beat Louisville. It's not. Louisville's not on the level as Notre Dame. You've got to be able to go out and get the next big wins and move be able to move the sticks and score points against Texas, against Alabama, against Georgia, teams like that. That's going to be the key. And it's going to require another level or two for the pass game to get there. And that's going to be the key. So that's really what the offense is. I'm going to do game records next. We're going to be real quick with that because I do want to get to the buy sell hold, because we had some great buy sell hold submissions there. Before we go, folks, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, share this podcast, give us a 5-star review. And of course, if you've not done so already, sign up for the message board at boards.irishbreakdown.com.